Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome. It's so good to see all of you. Hi. We're going to do a little song together, I hope.
Yeah, we need you on the choruses, please.
Yeah. Anyone feel like joining us a little bit? Oh, guys, how's our energy doing? Good? It's about to be better. It's just going to keep rising, right? Together we can move mountains. Alone we can't move at all. Oh, together we can move mountains. Alone we can't move at all. You know, people, sometimes we despair when we think we're alone and nothing's gonna change. We might get stepped on or abused, ignored, or confused. We might suffer when we're told we're to blame.
Join us, everybody.
Together we can move mountains. Alone we can't move at all. I know together we can move mountains. And alone we can't move at all.
The ones who get rich, watch so many scrape by. They know our unity means their defeat. So they set us together, sister and brother, color to color, keeping us weak. Oh, they're trying to keep us weak, but
together we can move mountains. Alone we can't move at all. Oh, together we can move mountains. Alone we can't move at all.
one more time.
Together we can move mountains. Alone we can't move at all. Let me sing one more verse. From the smallest seed to a mighty tree, oh, with the roots planted firmly into the ground. We gotta reach for the sun, yeah, and then we'll know all of the love and the life to be found. Oh, together we can move mountains. Yes, we can. Oh, but alone, you know we can't move at all. So we gotta come together, 'cause you know that we can move mountains. Yeah, alone, oh, we can move at all. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amir Ahmed. My English pronouns are he, his, and him, and I serve as Vice Provost for Intercultural Excellence here at University of Vermont. Can you give it up for Dwight and Nicole one more time? They'll be coming back later. We thank them for opening today's program with Together We Move Mountains, very apropos of the moment. I want to thank the senior leaders that have joined us here. I want to thank Interim Provost Shadler for joining us today as we spend time together at this very important moment, both in person and online, to celebrate the enduring legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Before I continue, I would like to acknowledge the indigenous peoples of this land on which the university now sits. The campus of University of Vermont sits within a place of gathering and exchange shaped by water and stewarded by ongoing generations of indigenous peoples, in particular, the Western Abenaki. Acknowledging the relations between the water, land, and people is in harmony with the mission of the university. Acknowledging the serious and significant impacts of our histories on indigenous peoples and their homelands is a part of the university's ongoing work of teaching, research, and engagement, and an essential reminder of our past and our interconnected futures for the many of us gathered on this land. UVM respects the indigenous knowledge interwoven in this place and commits to uplifting the indigenous peoples and cultures present on this land and within our community. Before we continue, as I mentioned, it's quite a poignant moment for us to be coming together, and I wanted to share some remarks, some of my reflections. There has never been a more important moment in my lifetime to learn and reflect and apply the lessons of Dr. King's life and the broader ongoing civil rights movement than right now. That reality causes us to think even more deeply about what he referred to as the fierce urgency of now. One of the greatest sheroes of all time, Coretta Scott King, said, "Freedom is never really won. You earn it and win it in every generation." We should not operate with any ambiguity with regards to the fact that our generation is being called to do more. It is with that in mind that we welcome Rosalyn Pelles, a tireless fighter of freedom and justice, here to UVM. Never has it been more important for us to learn from those who have spent decades in the struggle for and committed to liberation. In doing so, we must learn with humility, particularly from those of us who have long been subjected to and strategically fought back against ongoing state violence. We need to follow their lead. In this moment, we cannot and should not replicate the well-intended but misguided tactics that did not lead to our collective desired betterment. In fact, the backlash it produced unintentionally contributed to the moment we now find ourselves in. Of all the dimensions of cruelty and demonization currently occurring in this country, nothing to me is more reflective of its absurdity than the current detention of Native people by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Think about that for a second. The one people that have always been here, subject to Immigration and Customs Enforcement. That is why I personally am finding ways to follow the lead in support of Native friends, elders, leaders in the Plains and Great Lakes, such as Chase Iron Eyes from the Lakota People's Law Project, who are currently fighting for the freedom of detained Native peoples. I know this feels like a unique moment of crisis, but we must remember the urgency of crisis has always been with us, and so has our collective courage, commitment, and creativity. We are in a time of profound political, systemic, and cultural shifts that are reordering what we thought we knew, and what to do. Old systems and norms are breaking down, and new structures have yet to form. For those of us who are leading within communities, organizations, and across disciplines, we are witnessing rapid shifts that challenge and shake the ground underneath us. Together, we can do more than react. We can reimagine our foundations and retool our skills and practices, grounded in UVM's Our Common Ground values, to create change towards justice. We have the responsibility to act now to build towards the world in which we long to live. Because of this, the Division of Intercultural Excellence in UVM is leaning into the moment by engaging students, staff, and faculty to support you in navigating these complex times. Please stay alert to upcoming opportunities this semester to learn about those opportunities to connect, to stay safe, and to engage. Derek Bell said, "Courage is a decision you make to act in a way that works through your own fear and for the greater good, as opposed to pure self-interest for what you believe is right." It is my sincere hope that today will be an important step for all of us to work through our fear in pursuit of that greater good. And with that, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce the 28th President of University of Vermont, Dr. Marlene Trump. University of Vermont is the flagship land-grant research university of the state of Vermont, and as president, she has worked in partnership with the faculty to increase academic excellence and the research profile, improve student graduation, grow research funding, and increase philanthropic giving. Please give a warm welcome to someone that I think could not be a better leader for this moment for our university than Dr. Trump.
I am so honored to stand here today, so honored to have the privilege of welcoming you to our campus. It is a difficult time in our nation and our world. The hardships are producing pain and suffering in so many people. That makes this such a vital and powerful moment to reflect upon what Dr. King has meant in history, what his words, vision, and legacy mean right now. His words and sermons have been a solace for me in this time, and the effort that he engaged in to make the world a better place, an extraordinarily humane model for justice that our speaker, Rosalyn Pelles, engaged in as well. And that extraordinarily humane process feels so lost in so many ways today. From his care for sanitation workers to his Poor People's Campaign, Dr. King recognized a profoundly important commitment to people living decent lives, something that's becoming a greater and greater challenge, even when people are working so hard. Dr. King's commitment to the humanity of all of us made it possible for him to bridge between antagonists and the people for whom he was working. His words provide a profound challenge and offer deep and meaningful hope. In his sermon at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church on the 6th of November, 1956, he said, "I still believe that love is the most durable power in the world. Over centuries, men have sought to discover the highest good. This has been the chief quest of ethical philosophy. I think I have discovered the highest good. It is love. This call for love is neither passive nor soft nor weak. It requires tremendous courage to walk the path of love when we are challenged to stand in separate camps or overwhelmed by the devastating violence of the moment. And it can provide powerful energy for resistance and resilience. To retain hope, to continue to work for a cause, we must be clear-eyed about the hardships and sacrifices. But we must retain that hope, even in the face of shocks and assaults. This is the resilience for which justice calls. Rosalyn Pelles inspires me. As a labor and civil rights leader, the impact of her organizing work, the brilliance of her advocacy and movement building has spanned decades. You will hear more about that in a moment. Like Dr. King, Rosalyn Pelles has been a profound teacher. She brings historical perspective and contemporary insight, someone who has not only studied movements, but shaped them. She has lived the work that we must all do. I am so profoundly grateful for this moment to learn. I am so profoundly grateful for your history of work and for your presence here at UVM today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, friends. I am Reverend Dr. James Ross, and I serve as Senior Director of Intercultural Centers and Director of the Interfaith Center here at the University of Vermont. By now, you have heard or seen media coverage of the massive march that took place in Minneapolis last week. Now, I'm not a fan of cold weather, but in temperatures of 15 below zero and wind chills much colder, I was there among at least 50,000 and perhaps 75,000 others, marching and chanting and standing together. Now, this is not part of my work at UVM. Instead, my commitment to the work, the legacy, and the ongoing mission of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. necessitated my presence. Because like him, I am a Christian pastor who is compelled by my faith to work for the dignity, justice, and liberation of all people. So when organizers in Minnesota issued a call to clergy and people of faith just a few days before the annual MLK birthday holiday, I knew that I had to be there. And it was a throwback to 1965 when Dr. King urged pastors, clergy, and faith leaders from throughout the United States to come to Selma, Alabama, to take part in what he said would be a peaceful, nonviolent protest for freedom. Just 2 weeks earlier, state troopers, basically the state police, had viciously beaten protesters who were seeking voting rights when they set out to march 54 miles from Selma to the state capitol in Montgomery, where they hoped to present their concerns to the notoriously racist Governor George Wallace. That day became known as Bloody Sunday. And predictably, the protesters were vilified. They were called agitators and troublemakers and told that if they just followed the law, they wouldn't have these problems. That sounds familiar. But the shocking images were broadcast throughout the nation, and they outraged many Americans. And people responded by staging demonstrations, traffic blockades, and sit-ins in solidarity with the Alabama protesters. Finally, a federal court permitted the action for March 21st, 1965. Hundreds of clergy and faith leaders responded to Dr. King's call, and they were among the approximately 25,000 marchers who reached the state capitol in Montgomery 4 days later. These events galvanized public opinion and were instrumental to the passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which President Johnson signed into law just a few months later. Now, I've spent lots of time in Selma and in Montgomery, and as a young reporter, I worked in both cities. I've met and interviewed many of the people who were the leaders for the march, as well as people who were children when they participated in it. So when organizers in Minneapolis issued their call, it felt personal. And I responded, along with at least 650 other clergy, Christians and Jews, Unitarian Universalists, and Quakers, and more. We went for Friday's march, but not only that. Some of us were arrested during a protest at the airport. We held sing-ins in the offices of corporations based in Minnesota, including Target, urging them to use their power to help. We visited memorials to George Floyd and Renee Good and others. We went to the streets to understand what is happening there. We listened, hopefully more than we talked, and we sat in solidarity with the people of the city. In a moment when faith seems to be weaponized against the oppressed and in favor of the privileged and the wealthy, we went to elevate the moral power of faith as a public good. And this is important, friends, because things on the ground in Minneapolis are much worse, much more difficult, and far more dangerous than you've read, seen in videos, or even imagined. Now listen, I don't claim to be an immigration expert. I don't know the political solutions, but I know this. Just as in Selma, this is not only a political crisis, it is also a humanitarian crisis, a social crisis, and a cultural crisis. And as a person of faith, I believe it is also a moral and spiritual emergency. And I think this story illustrates that perfectly. I arrived in Minnesota late Wednesday evening, and many of us clergy and faith leaders were scheduled to spend much of Thursday hearing from activists and others on the ground. As we gathered, Rabbi Ariel Likach Rosenberg of Shir Tikva in Minneapolis shared that a member of her community was going to be late because she was delivering breast milk to a 3-month-old whose mother had been taken into ICE custody. That is the horror that people are facing. Yet people who live there are reminding us in so many ways that we are better together. For example, massive mutual aid networks are raising money to pay rent for people who can't go to work, to purchase groceries for those who need them, to deliver food and other essentials to people who can't leave their homes. And yes, women are delivering breast milk for newborn babies. Friends, I believe we are in a Kairos moment, a perhaps fleeting opportunity that God or the universe or time has presented us to change the trajectory of our lives and our history. What will we do with it? Because if our honoring of Dr. King is limited to reflections and platitudes, it is vapid and hollow. Dr. King urged immediate action against racism, poverty, and injustice. He wanted us to know that tomorrow is today, and that complacency can mean that we are too late to fix critical social problems. And the good news is that we can use whatever skills, resources, and talents we have. Now, in my role here at UVM, I am committed to advancing student success among all learners in our communities and to providing access to information about this moment and others. I don't presume to know how anyone else should respond or what anyone else should feel, think, or do. Rather, it is my responsibility to encourage the free exchange of ideas. And that is why I'm excited about today's speaker and for so much of our shared work as a community. Through this, we can learn more and experience more of each other. And perhaps we also will, as Dr. King said in 1965, come to see that in the end, we seek a society at peace with itself, a society that can live with its conscience. May it be so.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon or evening, however you want to look at it. My name is Sandy Bermanzan. I work in the Division of Intercultural Excellence as a signature event coordinator. And I want to thank everyone so much for being here for this important and, for me, very personal event. I want to thank Dwight and Nicole for filling this space with your beautiful voices and music, and Vice Provost Amer for his support in allowing me to create this experience today. And thank you, Reverend Dr. Ross and Dr. Trump, for your very important words. I am so beyond honored to be introducing today's esteemed speaker and my favorite auntie in, the world, Rosalyn Pelles. Woo! Roz has been a strong and beautiful figure in my life since before I was born. And as the years go by, I'm continually amazed by her grace, by her brilliance, and by her love. Our families are deeply connected by an incredible bond of strength, of survival and courage, and a bond of love. There are so many experiences that our families have shared, some of which I've witnessed, and some that I know through stories. My parents and Roz, and many, many others, are survivors of the Greensboro Massacre. The massacre happened on November 3rd in 1979 in Greensboro, North Carolina. Two white supremacist groups, the Ku Klux Klan and the neo-Nazis, organized and rolled up on a group of people who were gathering to demonstrate. They were demonstrating against the Klan, who were rising in popularity at that time. The KKK and neo-Nazis opened fire on those people. They killed 5 people that day. I am named after 2 of the fallen, Sandra Smith and Michael Nathan. I was given the name Sandra Michelle. They injured 11 more people that day, including my father, who was shot in the head and in the arm, and remains paralyzed on the left side of his body. My mother was pregnant with me. Through the ashes of this story, this tragedy, this atrocity, unbreakable bonds were made that connect Roz and myself and many others. These bonds are astonishingly resilient. The family that I was born into, this family that for me is thicker than blood, has been a constant light and beacon to continually commit myself to fighting the good fight, to committing myself to find truth, to find love, to find healing in the struggle, and in the power of resistance and in resilience. Though this tragedy brought us together, it does not define us. It doesn't define our relationship. We have had years and have had created many, many more memories. Throughout my life, many of the survivors come together every summer for a family reunion where loads of us gather at a beach and spend a week together, sharing our homes, our food, sharing meals, sharing songs, like the song that Dwight and Nicole just sang, Together We Can Move Mountains. That's become kind of like an anthem for many of us. Growing from a baby to a kid, to a teenager, to a grown-up, Roz has always been an example of an extraordinary human that I looked up to. I mean, I honestly gush over Roz. It's a fact. She tolerates me, though, so. From telling me how I need to act when I really need to learn, to hugging me and talking with me about the world, telling me stories about a time before I remember, to mercilessly grilling my boyfriend to make sure he could hang with our crew. which she passed. We're married now. There are just countless stories and experiences. Roz is a veteran activist of workers and civil rights. She's been doing this since she was a teenager, but she's still doing it. She still works tirelessly to ensure that dignity is a right for every human. She continues to be a leader. She continues to be a beacon of hope and an inspiration. Her resilience is incredible. Roz has taught me, and I'm, still learning, but like I said, I'm so excited to have her here today. So without further ado, I'd like to present Rosalyn Woodard Pelles.
I have to say, I've never had an introduction like that. And I am so pleased that I did. Thank you very much, Sandy. Sandy's like one of my children, and I'm so proud of her. Thank you. Okay, between Sandy's introduction and Together We Move Mountains, I don't know how to start this thing. I actually know Bev Grant, who wrote that song, and it matters a lot to me, and so thank you for that as well. So, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I know it's cold here, but good afternoon. President Trump, Vice Provost Ahmed, Reverend Dr. Ross, I am honored to join you, all of you, here today at the University of Vermont to celebrate the life, work, and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. I offer special thanks to Dr. Ahmed and Sandy Bermazan, and all who made this celebration possible. This holiday has been celebrated for 40 years. Dr. King was the first private citizen to ever be named for a public holiday here, a federal holiday. This celebration is a recognition of Dr. King's critical importance to our nation. It also has special meaning to me. For our nation, having this federal holiday not only honors a great national leader, champion for civil rights, but stands as a reminder of the long struggle for civil rights in this country. This holiday challenges all of us to be vigilant in protecting those rights. It is a recognition of resilience and a recognition of resistance. And that's especially important now in these times when there is an intentional movement to erase the history, struggles, and victories and contributions of oppressed people in this country. And it is a call to all of us here, to hold America true to her promise of equality and fair treatment for all of us who live here. Now for me, this day set aside to honor Dr. King is of great personal importance. Dr. King has been a major and continuous influence in my life, beginning when I was 13 years old in the Congress of Racial Equality in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. My church was the headquarters for the civil rights movement. There, I was trained in Kingian nonviolence and then practiced it on picket lines and in sit-ins at segregated theaters, movies, and department stores. Even as a girl, Dr. King's message resonated with me. I learned to stand against injustice, and even when people responded to peaceful protests with violence, I learned to stand. I learned that nonviolence is transformative, and most of all, I learned that justice will eventually win. I was among the 250,000 people who traveled to Washington, D.C. on that hot August day in 1963 for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. There I heard Dr. King's words that inspired a nation. In 1964, I met Dr. King when he came to my hometown to speak and offer support for our voter registration project. I was proud to tell him and all that would listen that during the campaign, I was part of a team that registered my grandfather to vote. He voted for the first time at age 69. Imagine 69 years of age just registering for the first time. As an adult, I have since worked with and learned from many people who were in Dr. King's intimate circle in the civil rights movement: Ann Braden, Jack Odell, Reverend James Orange, and Reverend Jesse Jackson. Today, my work is with the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for a moral revival, which is a continuation and expansion of the work that Dr. King was engaged in at the time of his death. To this day, I continue to be guided by and work toward Martin King's vision of a country where all people are guaranteed human and civil rights, are treated with dignity and respect, and have equal access to economic opportunity. It is because of Dr. King's teachings, his work, and his example that I have been in the struggle for social justice for 60 years. This holiday is of special importance to me. Family, today we gather to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at a time when many people in this country and in this room feel anxious, exhausted, afraid, and uncertain about the future. Across the United States, we are witnessing things that trouble our very conscience. Our democracy is under attack, voting rights are weakened, truth is contested, history has been rewritten or restricted. The freedom to teach, learn, and speak honestly, especially about race, inequality, and power has been challenged. Peaceful protests are criminalized. The press is delegitimized and attacked, and court rulings are ignored. Political violence and intimidation are being normalized. Rhetoric that dehumanizes entire groups of people is commonplace. Militarism is increasingly a part of everyday life in city streets here in the US and in foreign lands. Economic imbalance is widening. Wealth is concentrated at the top, while millions struggle to just make ends meet. The cost of health care, food, heating, housing, and child care soars. For most, life is precarious. We see environmental protections rolled back, even as climate disasters grow more intense. Fires, floods, storms. Federal environmental protection and emergency response agencies are decimated, leaving communities less safe and less prepared. And we see a deepening sense of division, deep polarization, fueled by disinformation and lies. People retreat into camps. Dialogue is replaced by outrage. We see our neighbors, friends, and for some even family members who are tear gassed, kidnapped, and killed on the streets of our country by men with covered faces carrying assault weapons, all in the name of ridding the country of dangerous illegal immigrants. Life today is fragile. The situation we are living in is not just some quirk. It is a result of the policies, agenda, and whims of the current administration. Our country is moving toward centralized political power, restriction of civil liberties, destruction of independent institutions, universities, agencies, media. They're all controlled, or there's an attempt to control those that they haven't taken under control. Dissent is punished. Scapegoating and division abounds. Loyalty to this president is required. We are headed toward authoritarianism. To turn this around, resistance and resilience are required. Resistance is the refusal to accept injustice, actively working to challenge or disrupt it, collectively or as individuals. And resilience is the capacity to continue moving forward despite adversity. Resilience and resistance are distinct, but they are inseparable. What this moment demands is both the courage to confront what is wrong and unjust, and the endurance to stay in the struggle long enough to change it. This afternoon, as we celebrate Dr. King, we can look to his life and work for examples of the power of resistance and resilience. However, as we celebrate Dr. King today, there are those who seek to diminish him and to deny Dr. King's legacy. King the dreamer, King the orator, King that is out of touch, who was a rebel-rouser, King of a bygone era. That's how many people want him remembered. The false narrative of King that is most promoted is that of a dreamer. King the dreamer is how they want us to remember him. Dr. King, behind a microphone, flags waving in front of the Lincoln Memorial. It is an image of him speaking at the March on Washington, him dreaming that all of us would sit down together at the table of brotherhood, dreaming that his 4 little kids would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, dreaming that we would be able to transform and the discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. For many, this was his finest hour, the I Have a Dream speech. Pew Research finds that 60% of the people in this country associate Dr. King with that speech. For many, he is locked in that moment. But this is a distortion of Dr. King. This is a distortion of who he was, and this is a distortion of his work. And even the very thing that people try to associate with him, the speech, that has been distorted. First, that speech was not called by King, I Have a Dream. His speech was originally titled, Normalcy Never Again. He did not come on that day to dream. His speech was meant to be a call to action. In the wake of the basic denial of human rights to Black folks. In that speech, Dr. King described the promises made by America to Black folks as a promissory note on which America had defaulted. He said that America had given the Negro people a bad check, but that we've come to cash that check by marching in Washington. Marchers were told at that time it was a time for them to act. He said, we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. He instructed marchers to return home and to act. Dr. King told all those present that day, we have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drugs of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. These are not the words of one who only comes to dream. In fact, the I Have a Dream part of that speech was an add-on at the very last minute and not to be the main takeaway that day. We have to examine why this happened, why so many people today want to think of King as King the Dreamer. King the Dreamer, they want to think of him as King the Orator. This is a sanitized version of Dr. King. The sanitization and appropriation of his legacy are not just acts of historical forgetfulness. They are acts of deliberate revisionism. By reframing him as a universally beloved figure, these narratives conveniently ignore the societal divisions, entrenched opposition that he fought against. This revisionism serves those who now and in Dr. King's time find his message deeply disturbing and uncomfortable, and it threatens their worldview. The deliberate distortion of Dr. King and his message is also a tool for silencing activism today. as a way to discredit and delegitimize the very movements that embody Dr. King's legacy. There are those who even use Dr. King's words against him to justify policies and actions that are contrary to his intentions or his belief. An example is when the right, when extremists use King's wish that his little children would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. They use it as a call for a colorblind society to attack and dismantle affirmative action and DEI programs. Folks have used his words about peace to condemn today's activism and protest. King actually said, "There can be no peace without justice." They ignore the fact that Dr. King himself was a disruptor, a force who recognized that true change often requires peaceful protest and demands a fundamental upheaval of our social order. In this hallmark card distortion, the Dr. King who spoke truth to power, who stood firm against the tide of oppression, who demanded justice, is lost. To honor his legacy truthfully, we must make sure that these false narratives are debunked. We must embrace and promote the totality of his message, recognizing that his vision was not merely one of harmony, but of transformation, a transformation that is still deeply needed in this country today. We in this room know King. We know King the visionary, the preacher, the peacemaker, the philosopher, the revolutionary, maker of good trouble, champion of nonviolent direct action. We know the radical King. We know the King that joined hands with Rosa Parks to lead the Montgomery boycott in 1955. We know the Martin King that founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference that stood against unjust laws in the Jim Crow era and took on issues of discrimination in transportation and voting rights in cities all over the South and the country. Dr. King led the marches across the Edmund Pettus Bridge from Selma to Montgomery that led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. He brought a moral underpinning to movements for civil and human rights. Dr. King spoke out against unjust wars, especially the war in Vietnam. Dr. King was the 1964 recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize for his commitment to achieving racial justice. At that time, at just 35, he was the youngest to receive the prestigious award and the second only African American. He was a defender of workers' rights, standing with sanitation workers in Memphis and auto workers in Michigan. King reminded us that all dignity that uplifts humanity has dignity. All labor that uplifts humanity has dignity. The King that spoke to the nation about the nature of capitalism is the King we know. He talked about how it worked for the few and left behind the many. He was a champion and advocate of the poor. He brought together people of all races to struggle together against poverty, racism, and militarism. Today, we are called to claim and remember that Dr. King that sought to change the status quo by bold and bodacious actions, building power through coalitions, direct action, organizing campaigns, boycotts, and voter mobilization. Today, we look to that Dr. King, the Dr. King that called for a revolution of values and a transformation of our society. This is the Martin King we remember today, the Dr. King that understood the power of resistance and resilience. Let us take a few minutes to look at a few fundamental lessons that Dr. King left with us that can be applied today. One is the necessity for coalitions, for political coalitions. King understood that the movement would never win with only those already convinced. We needed coalition. This is of course needed even more today. Authoritarian movements gain strength when opposition is split into small competing groups. each morally pure, each politically isolated. King's approach was not that of purity politics. It was majority building. It was coalition building. Today, we again need interracial coalitions, cross-class coalitions, faith and secular coalitions, labor and community coalitions, urban and rural alliances, not because differences do not matter, but because the stakes are too high for the divisions to win. 2, the struggle for democracy requires more than an abstract discussion of authoritarianism. As Dr. King's work deepened, his focus expanded and connected beyond civil rights towards human rights, poverty, labor, housing, militarism. And that is a profound, very profound lesson for us today. King warned us about this long before our era. In today's climate, his insight is sharper than ever. Economic justice is not separate from democracy. It's one of its foundations. We must fight for material conditions that allow people to live with dignity. Wages, health care, housing, education, workplace rights, and protection from exploitation. This brings people into the struggle. Nonviolent direct action is disciplined conflict. It is not passivity. That's what Dr. King taught. King's nonviolence is not about being nice. It's not about avoiding confrontation. It is a method of struggle built on courage and discipline. Those lessons matter now in a moment when authoritarian politics feeds on chaos. It feeds on chaos. In this moment, in this kind of environment, disciplined resistance becomes even more important. Nonviolent resistance refuses to mirror the cruelty of the oppressed or the oppressor. King teaches us that justice requires organized power. King understood what we sometimes forget: being right does not guarantee winning. Moral truth does not automatically become public policy, and passionate outrage does not automatically become change. King built power. He built what movements are built of, from organized people and organized resources, guided by disciplined leadership and strategic action. This lesson matters now because we live in a time when people are constantly being pushed into emotional reaction. Outrage today, despair tomorrow, distraction the next day, a politics of constant adrenaline. But King did not build a movement on adrenaline. He built it on organization. A lesson for today is this: our movements must become more than protest. It must become more than moments. We must become institutions of community power, local chapters, voting coalitions, mutual aid societies, training programs, legal aid networks, structures that do not disappear when the news cycle moves on. In King's time, the opponents of justice wanted people to feel powerless. And in our time, they still want the same. The message they're giving to us is nothing will change, so why try? King's work is a direct rebuttal. People organized together can change the world. Now, we've looked at the power of resistance and lessons that Dr. King taught us and how they can be applied today. The bottom line is that resistance is power. In the absence of that, we stand to lose everything. We stand to lose the gains of past years, our most fundamental rights, and our democracy. Now on the question of resilience. Resilience keeps movements alive long enough to win. It is not easy to stay in the fights. Movements for social justice have many twists and turns, setbacks and victories. Resilience is one of the most underestimated forms of power in our movements. A movement can have the best message, the clearest moral case, and a massive public support. But if it cannot endure repression and setbacks and burnout and internal strain, it will lose momentum before it forces the real change that is needed. Resilience is power. In every era, injustice counts on three things: fear, fatigue, and division. Fear, fatigue, and division. The road to authoritarianism requires it. Resilience is its counterforce. It is courage, it is endurance, it's solidarity. Resilience is its counterforce. It is courage, it is endurance, and it's solidarity. Now, resilience has two aspects: movement resilience and personal resilience. Both are important. First, personal resilience. I know a little bit about this. I've been around for a long time. Being involved in struggles for social justice, while at the same time living life, deaths, family, work, and births, attacks, and school is not always easy. And for me, over all these years, it has not been easy. There are many times that have challenged my resolve. One of those times was the Greensboro Massacre in 1979, when Ku Klux Klan and Nazis in a caravan drove into a black community down a very narrow street where folks were preparing for an anti-Klan march and opened fire on people getting ready for a peaceful march on a Saturday morning. At the end of the day, 5 people were dead and 11 folks were wounded, including my husband. Other challenges I've had other challenges to my resolve. This was probably one of the greatest. But there have been other challenges to my resolve, including family and illnesses and family deaths, loss of jobs, public harassment, and more. It has not been easy. Personal resilience is not easy. In justice movements, personal resilience is not just about being tough or pushing through. It is the ongoing ability to stay grounded, effective, and fully human in the face of pressure, setbacks, and injustice. It requires a deep understanding of why you're in the movement, why you're in it, and what keeps you grounded, and what's your purpose. It's not about suppressing anger or grief or fear, but always having ways to process them so they don't consume you. Personal resilience also requires sustainability. Burnout is not a badge of honor, and rest is often a form of responsibility. It has taken me a while to understand this. I don't think I've got it fully yet. Solo heroism is also not the answer. We last longer when we are supported, seen, and at times can lean on others. Then there's movement resilience, and movement resilience is power. Dr. Martin Luther King's concept of resilience centers on, as he put it, unwavering forward momentum despite obstacles. It is rooted in faith, purpose, hope, and collective action. This is captured best in Dr. King's words: if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. It is more than individual strength. It is collective capacity of a movement to endure, adapt, and keep advancing, even when facing repression, setbacks, internal conflict, and long periods without wins. It grows from strong relationships and shared leadership. It is rooted in values and principles that hold people together. It is rooted in hope. The King-era movements gave people a vision of a beloved community and the hope that the arc of the universe bends toward justice. Movement resilience requires strategy and adaptability. It requires the ability to adjust tactics, learn from mistakes, and respond creatively when conditions change. We can look back at the initial attempts at the crossing of the Edmund Pettus Bridge and marches supporting sanitation workers in Memphis for these examples. Resilience requires sustainable structures and organizations that hold movements together. King's work shows us that resilience isn't just enduring hardship, but transforming it through persistence, nonviolent pressure, sustained by spiritual strength and a vision of change. In essence, Dr. King taught that resilience in the face of injustice means holding on to hope, finding strength in faith and community, and committing to continuous principled action until justice prevails. Resistance and reliance is the refusal to be defined by the opponent. A protest can shake the system for a weekend. Resilience builds the power to keep going. Opponents often assume a movement will fade. Resistance is the act of proving them wrong. It's the act of staying in the fight long enough to win. There is power in resilience. Now for a word of caution. As we talk about the lessons of Dr. King's era, today, as we are engaged in the fight for democracy and the very soul of our nation, we look to Dr. King for lessons we can use today, those lessons that got us through challenging and dark times in this country's history. As we recall those lessons, we must remember that these times, challenges, and risk are different. They are different today. We have to discern which lessons, tactics, and strategies will serve us today. We hear from many, oh, we've been through hard political times before. The extension of that thinking is often that this moment is basically the same kind of challenge. We can expect the same kind of outcome if we do what we did again. Other thinking is that the nation survived difficult moments of oppression, repression, and fascist-like attacks. We look back at slavery, repression, Jim Crow, attacks on LGBTQI and trans folks, and more, and that we will survive again. We may have seen certain aspects of what we see today, but this moment is different. This is a different time. This is the first time this nation is fighting for its very soul and its foundational underpinnings. In past struggles, we have often looked to institutions of democracy to provide the relief we've needed: the courts, the Justice Department, the laws, policy, schools, media, public opinion, the Congress, and yes, the Constitution. They are all under attack now. We're on the road to a new kind of authoritarianism. These times are different. We must resist. We can use some of the tactics and strategies and lessons Dr. King taught us. However, we also have to analyze these times and find the additional ways to resist. And finally, there is hope. There is power in hope. Resistance and resilience require hope, faith, and the ability to imagine a better world and work toward it. This is a struggle for America's promise to us all. This democracy belongs to us all. Our goal must be to go beyond defeating authoritarianism. The goal must be to build a true democratic society, like one we haven't seen yet, that recognizes each person's humanity and makes it possible for each of us to take care of our families, good health care, quality education, affordable housing, thriving wages, all that ensure quality of life that we all deserve. All are possible in the wealthiest nation in the world. This is a fight for the soul of our nation. None of us can sit out. None of us can sit out of this. Each of us must resist, and each one of us must stay in the struggle long enough so that we are able to win. Our democracy is at stake today, family. There is power in resistance and resilience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosalyn. Wow. I mean, again, the timeliness, and we're gleaning some examples of adaptive strategies, emergent strategies in our country right now that seem to be bearing out some possibilities of positive impact. So your words are really received at a very timely moment. We're going to take a few minutes for Q&A. I know that Sandy has a mic. There is, yep, and then Logan has a mic over here. And so if anybody has any questions, we have about 5 minutes for questions for Rosalyn. She's going to be seated for the Q&A.
Hi. Well, you've answered my question with your presence. Basically, I was wondering, how is it possible that you're still able to be like so resilient in all of this, in the face of all of this opposition energy, which for me is just very challenging. I'm working on that, and I've heard you say you're working on that yourself, yet here you sit, so beautiful and composed and wise and strong, and I want to be just like you someday. So any tips or tricks on how one can remain intact with their energy whole as you have, as in this beautiful way? Thank you.
I think it's preparation. It's understanding purpose, and it's preparation that all along as you struggle, you're looking toward a better world. So when there are troubles that arise, even authoritarianism, if we have that and hope, then we can get through it. And if we continue to look for ways to challenge what's happening to us. And that's important now. I'm sometimes discouraged by people thinking that, oh, we've done this before. We have not done this before. And our preparation should tell us that when we see new things coming in, when we understand new challenges. And now our very nation, the very soul of our democracy is challenged. So we have to prepare for hard times. We have to not think about every single win, but we have to think about the long term. And we just have to hang in there. You know, I'm walking around after a knee replacement. And just, you know, but what drives me and continues me at 77 is that I know it's possible. I know it's possible to have a different world. And I know that people in this room will fight for a different world. I know that. I have that kind of faith in people. And so I urge us all not to get discouraged, but to continue to fight. And however we can, we all can't march, we all can't sing, we all can't do what we see our neighbors doing, but we can do something. We can write a letter, we can do something. And that's important at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosalyn. And, you know, like you said, none of us can sit out of the fight of the very soul of our democracy. Hopefully we're all listening to that. And I think I'll ask a question that I hope other people are thinking about, but, you know, with varying levels of ability, different levels of risk, you know, how can we take part in that? Should we all join the Poor People's Campaign?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. Maybe if you could speak up just a little or turn up her mic.
Okay. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
I was just saying, like you said, none of us can sit out of the fight of the soul of our very nation, right? With different levels of ability, with people having different levels of risk based on their identity or, for instance, immigration status. How would you say, how can we get involved? And I just said, like, should we join, like, the Poor People's Campaign? How do we build coalitions?
Yeah, I think that that we have to, first of all, decide that we will be involved, that it's everybody's fight, and then we figure out where we can get involved. And there are many opportunities locally to do that, to do fights right where we are. They don't have to be nationwide strikes. We just saw what happened in Minneapolis. That was a current, modern-day example of resistance and resilience. It was an example of where people saw an injustice in their town. They didn't have to go anywhere. In their town, they saw an injustice, and they decided that they would not stand for it. And they did many things. They took to the streets, they prayed, they visited, they took care of people who were challenged more than them, and they had a victory. And it's a mild victory, and we're all like holding it together, just waiting to see if there's going to be a change there. But we have to believe that every time there's even a modicum of victory, that we have to claim it. The people in Minneapolis and all those who supported that struggle have to claim that little victory. They got the main guy out of there. They've gotten a promise for a reduction of forces. And most of all, they've put one more backup in front of authoritarianism in this country. One more time, and each time matters, and other people are watching and getting strength from them and moving forward. So we just gotta, find out, look in the newspaper, call up the local, whatever it is, coalition that's happening in your town. And then if you want to do more, go off marching and do all those things that have made change over the years.
Thank you so much, Rosalyn.
Thank you so much for being here and giving us the space to talk about these things in this place of learning and this workplace. My comment is really building off of something that Reverend Dr. James Ross mentioned, which is the conflict, if you will, or the tension between what we would like to do as activists and being in a place of learning and work. What would you say as advice to those of us who would love to bring a more activist perspective into the work that we do in this place, but feel perhaps constrained by the need to retain a sense of safety for all voices in this place of learning and work?
You saved the easiest question for last. This is a hard place to be. And in a place of learning, this is where we almost have to be. We have to take on the risk to talk about these issues. And there is a lot of risk now to both safety and job and so many things. And we have to figure out where we individually can take those risks. We have to never give up our voice to tell the truth. And we can tell it in different ways. We can write it, we can speak it, we can demonstrate it, but we cannot give that up, especially in an institution of learning where people are here to understand the world. The greatest job in the world is teaching and being on a campus where you can influence the lives of others. This is the greatest job ever. I am so lucky that it's a family business. My husband was a professor, and I have 2 kids that are professors. And I tell them they are doing God's work every single day. Who comes in contact with thousands of minds that want to understand the world that we're living in? So we have to be strong enough, and we have to take enough risk. And it is not easy. It is not easy. For the couple years I was up at the Divinity School at Yale, I saw how hard it was. But you just have to take a chance. And you have to be willing to talk to folks and to make sure that people find safety as they talk and that they have an opportunity to do so. But this is an amazing challenge for us all, for us in academia and for outside. And the risks are greater, almost greater than ever before. You know, one of the things I say to people, and this has nothing to do with your question, but the one thing I say to people is, when we look at the past and what worked, it is so incredibly important for me to talk to people about the times that are different from before. Too many people talk to me about, it'll be all right. It will not be all right unless we do something different. It will not. And so we have to train ourselves different. We have to go back to Kingian and go back to the teachings of Dr. Lawson, go back to the teachings of Gandhi, to really do civil disobedience in that way. If we're doing that, we can't take it lightly anymore. You may not come home. You know, I'm always thinking in these days about Diane Nash in Nashville. When she got on that freedom bus, she knew. And that's the case. We're in a similar situation. So people have to be mindful that the threat to this country is so deep, and there are so many that wish that we had a different kind of life here, that we have to work hard and we have to understand that it's a different world. And we have to be challenged by that. So that's my That is my soapbox.
Thank you so much, Rosalyn. We are so grateful for your wisdom, your knowledge. So, as we conclude today's program, we have one last song from Dwight and Nicole. While they set up, if you could take a few moments to complete the feedback form. I think there's a QR code. Finally,
thank you so much.
I'm excited to share with all of you that registration is live for the Our Common Ground Symposium, what used to be called the Inclusive Excellence Symposium, from March 16th to March 19th. This year's theme is Building Resilience Through Connection. We hope to see you there. And one final thing that I want to say related to our common ground values and what was asked about what people can do. One of our values is responsibility. And one thing that I want to leave you with is the idea of responding to your ability. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy one last song from Dwight and Nicole.
I want to say thank you, Sandy, for putting this on. I know you had a lot of help, but your heart and spirit shines through into this room, and I can feel it. Thank you for introducing us to your favorite auntie. She is now my favorite auntie as well. And I was feeling defeated. I'm not going to lie. Lately, I've been feeling a little bit like, I don't know how much more fight I feel like I have in me. I'm a lover, not a fighter, And today I feel like something clicked in. And thank you for that, because I can just be the lover that I am, and that can be how I bring my fight to the table, and that's okay, right? What a gift that is, because it feels like a weight lifted off of my shoulder, because I've been beating myself up about how could I fight harder and show up and do more and be more aggressive, I guess, because in the face of aggression. And I won't take too much more time, but it really feels like an epiphany, and I want to thank you, because maybe me showing up here with my music and my voice is how I show up. And maybe the other lovers and the tender-hearted amongst us can learn to coagulate our energy and bring it together and feed into the beating heart of a movement this way. And so I don't know how I'm going to sing this right now because I'm very emotional, but thank you so much. You know what? It's an emotional song. Here we are. This song is called Wait, and it's about fighting when you're a lover. Heaven above, never behind. Sometimes easy way is the hardest to find. So follow the goal. Follow the light. The games that we play. Put up a good fight. Oh, I said now wait. I'm not done fighting for love. We better put down our glove and live to see a new day. A new day. So open the doors and take it outside. Carry no burdens, no, and tell me no lies, 'cause I'm not afraid anymore. And I'm not alone. Sometimes easy way is the only way home. Oh, I said now wait. I'm not done fighting for love. We better put down our gloves and live to see a new day. Oh, we're gonna see a new day. A new day. A new day. Oh, yeah. Together anew. Oh, together anew. Together anew. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dwight and Nicole, everyone, thank you all for being here. Thank you to the provost and the president for being here. I need to thank Sandy Bermanzon in particular, everyone. When we talked about doing this and bringing Roz, we could never have imagined the uniqueness of the moment in which you would be coming. Thank you, Rosalyn Pelles, for joining us and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge. And thank you to the Division of Intercultural Excellence staff for all you've done, and Reverend Dr. James Ross. Your remarks were stunning in all that you do. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.